Greetings and salutations, and welcome to episode 199 of Ref the District. I'm Nathan. That's the Stoner. That's Trev. 200 is coming up next week, and we've got a chance to win a $200 gift card to FanDuel. You're going to want to stay.
Not FanDuel.
Not FanDuel.
Fanatics.
It was an FAN. Totally botched it, but we got there. $200 to Fanatics. That's going to be coming up next episode 200. Here we go with this episode 199. We're going to be hashing out the Steelers game. What did we learn from it? How did Jayden Daniels actually play when we got to rewatch it? Was that just the worst spot imaginable when it came to the Zach Ertz play? Spoiler alert, yes. Then we're going to go to the game. We're going to be talking about the NFC East crown is on the line in Thursday night football when the Washington Commanders go face the Philadelphia Eagles. And if you were to head over to Bet Online, you would see that the Eagles right now are 3.5-point favorites. Home field advantage is 3, so they're not really that favored. Now, the over-under set it to 48.5, and as the game comes along here and we get Brian Robinson coming in and we get to see what the game day action is like, these will be updated because Bet Online keeps you up to date with all the information. And while the game is going on, you can still be betting. And if it's not NFL action, they've got NBA, NHL, MMA, anything that you want to bet on for sports, they've got you covered right over there on Bet Online. So that's where the game starts. Let's move on to our cool down. We're going to have Lee Mayock coming over here to talk the Eagles side. We'll be speaking with the enemy there, Lee from Believe in Eagles, and that should be a fantastic conversation. Joining the conversation early here, Locked On Law, Doug and Brian. We appreciate people jumping in the chat. We know that your attention could be diverted in many places, so we appreciate it when you tune in to us here. Of course, we stream live every Wednesday on YouTube and Facebook at 7:30 Eastern, and then you can catch us on your favorite audio platforms after that. Let's move into that Pittsburgh game, gents, because that was far too long of an intro, but we had to get through some of that housekeeping stuff. So I already teased about the spot, but let's save that for later. That was the end of the game anyways. I want to know, if you guys rewatched it, how did you feel with a 1-point loss to the Pittsburgh Steelers several days after the fact, where the team looked pretty sloppy on Sunday?
Ooh, Trev, what you got? Did you rewatch it at all?
No, but I took some more time to think about it and rewatch some clips and stuff. I didn't rewatch the whole thing. I'm still disappointed.
Yeah, right.
I'm more disappointed than I was when we played Baltimore and lost by a touchdown to Baltimore. That was more of a moral victory for fans game for the Baltimore game, I think. And then we just got out there. We had so many opportunities to put this game away, so many opportunities to score more points. Our defense was just undisciplined. We weren't fundamentally sound that game very much. So I'm really disappointed because we really could have won that game. We should have won that game. And it should not have come down to Zach Ertz's spot. It should not have come down to Johnny Newton jumping off sides on a 4th and 1. It should have never come down to that. We were just self-inflicting, wounding ourselves the entire game. Once we had the lead at like 27-21, once we had that lead, we were just...
Was it ever a bigger lead than that? If I remember, was it 20? Were we up like 27-14 maybe even?
We were up, I believe, a couple touchdowns at one point. I'm going to go back here and take a look. We were up 24-14 was the largest lead that we had. So two score game there.
We just looked uncharacteristic. We just looked out of sorts.
Which is surprising because that's one of the big character traits of this team has been how disciplined and well coached and prepared that this team has been, and so they come out and do that. But I agree, it was a little bit disappointing looking back on it.
Stoner, I imagine you did rewatch some of the game. Did you watch the all 22 or did you watch just like the condensed version NFL Plus gives?
No, I always record it so I can watch it back on the old DVR so I can get it on the big giant screen.
I'm glad that NFL subscription is doing us some magic there because you could just watch the condensed version if you want, or the all 22 out there. So.
And by the way, can you watch the Thursday night game on NFL Plus? Does anybody know? Or
Ooh, I don't remember, because last year we had Thursday Night Football, and I don't remember if it was available afterwards. I want to say it was, but I don't know. That's
all
a
right,
great.
just
I think
if
it might be.
anybody knows, let me know as well. But yeah, so I was disappointed in kind of the mistakes that they made, but I do truly believe, kind of getting the big picture of it, that this loss really came at the perfect time, because we had kind of been riding high.
Sure.
6 out of 7 wins since the first game of the year, and all of these awards that guys are getting, and just all of the national love. We kind of needed to get knocked down a peg a little bit, to refocus, to recenter. And I think Bobby Wagner said it in one of his interviews. He said, look, we don't have time to dwell on that loss, and we're pissed off. We got to turn around and play in 4 days. And that's a good thing when you have something like this, in that you're going to go back to your instincts, and you're going to go back to all the things that have been built in from day one when training camp started. And that's a good thing for this team, who has a lot of good veteran leaders and, of course, has good coaching. So I think it came at a good time. You never want to lose a game, right? You don't go out there and just say, hey, we need to lose so we can recenter and all that. But looking back on it, you lose, you recenter, and I think that's good for this team.
Yeah, a lot of people are going into this game saying that this was one you could afford to lose, right? Like, this is one you're going to lose. This is a game that you're okay with in the end, as long as you make the playoffs, right? Because it's an out of conference game. So it doesn't, the way that it impacts tiebreakers and everything is minimal at best. And so you want to win every game. In fact, this is now highlighted by the fact that you went from the 2nd seed to now the 6th seed. You're talking about the fact that in the NFC East race, you're 2nd to the Eagles, which makes this Thursday night game even more important. Whereas if you won that Steelers game, then losing this one still puts you in the battle. But now if you lose back-to-back and in or against those Pennsylvania teams, that's where you're going to get a little bit of trouble. I'm kind of with you both on this one, where looking back at the game and watching, I'm with JG here as well. JG watched some of the All-22. Wide receiver performance was extremely disappointing. And that was certainly one of the things that kind of stood out to me. Overall, it wasn't like they were absolutely awful, but 6 drops on the day. Now, Jayden Daniels didn't look as sharp this game early on. He got into a rhythm much later, and then that's where those wide receiver drops were really disappointing, because he was getting people where he was hitting people where he needed to hit them, and they were not getting the ball. Maybe he could have thrown a little bit less hard to Diami in the back of the end zone. Maybe, the Noah Brown one. I don't know, man. I watched that one over and over again.
Yeah.
And if he throws it any further, the safety coming in is going to kill Noah Brown. Like, that's absolutely destroy him. And then it was also a good throw to try to catch that pass interference call, which it was. The Steelers defender there was running through Noah Brown while the ball was in the air. So it was probably a good one. But Noah Brown also just has to catch those. Don't leave it up to the refs. And that was, I think, the name of the game the entire time is you were kind of letting the refs dictate things on both sides of the ball, and also both sides of the sidelines, right? The Steelers were doing the same thing. Tomlin did talk about it at halftime. You can't let the refs dictate the game, but both of the teams were really relying on the referees to kind of spot them in the right way. And yes, I said that deliberately, because the Zach Ertz spot was awful, but that wasn't, like you said, Trev, where we lost the game. We lost the game because, again, we come out to a lead and our defense isn't able to hold on. And then our offense was sputtering when it needed to churn out some more points. It was the first 4th down conversion they did not make all year. I knew it was going to come, and I knew it was going to be heartbreaking when it happened.
Yeah.
And it really was disappointing to not get that 4th down conversion and that be the first time it missed. But it is what it is. I felt a little bit better rewatching it. I do feel St. Juice Tate is still at an all-time high where it doesn't necessarily need to be. The problem is he makes bonehead plays that just get highlighted, right? It's if you're talking basketball and you get posterized 2 times a game, it doesn't matter that you shut down the opposing player for all the rest of it. All that anybody is ever going to see are those 2 posters.
Yeah, I think some of the stuff you talked about, like the Noah Brown drop on that sideline there, and I mean the Zach Ertz drop and Diami and all those were just some of those were egregious drops, right? Some of those were tough catches. The McCaffrey catch was a tough catch, and even the Noah Brown was tough catch as well. But
that was a sweet one.
The thing is, we've been so used to it all year of making those tough catches. No matter what they are, no matter whether up high or they're low or they're maybe a little behind, whatever, they've been making so many. And again, it just changes your expectation. As a lot of people have said, and we even talked about, you look at 7-3. If we looked at 7-3 at the beginning of the year, we'd be ecstatic that this team is 7-3. But coming off a loss, you're disappointed and you're like, the expectations have changed now. Where we were just kind of hoping that, hey, this is year 1 of a rebuild or a recalibration.
Let Jayden Daniels look good.
Just let him develop. That's the only thing that matters. Well, now all of a sudden it's like, okay, he's better than we thought. And Frankie Louv was better than we thought, and so on and so forth. These acquisitions that were made were better. Dante Fowler, 3rd in the league in sacks, things like that. They're better. So now we're expecting them to play at the top of their game every week. And when they don't, when you have muffed punts and when you have, dropped passes, or you have maybe sacks that shouldn't have been taken or whatever it might be, then you're like, what's going on here? This shouldn't be happening because we're a good team. So it's just weird to go from that expectation of the preseason when 7-3 would have blown us away, and now we're like, man, we should be 8-2. We should have won that game. We should be 7-3 because you shouldn't win the Chicago game. But either way,
we should have.
We're just at a different level.
I disagree with that too, Trev. I'm with you, Trev. We should have done that one. It shouldn't have come down to a Hail Mary, Stoners, what you're trying to say for that Chicago game. For Trev here from Mike, Jay didn't look as fast this running game. Was he banged up, Trev?
Yeah, I think he was still a little banged up from that rib injury. I watched that clip that's going around today at practice. He threw the ball from far away and hit it square into that net, whatever that drill is. And he screamed, "I'm back," for all the SUIs were talking, "I'm back," and did the jet motion going down all across the field. To be honest, that throw looked better than some of the throws he had in the game on Sunday. Seriously, early on, he didn't look like himself. He looked like a rookie, like Caleb Williams has been looking the past few weeks. He looked shook out there a little bit. And then he got his hand hit by a pass rusher coming out as he threw a pass, so he was kind of gimpy on that. But you could tell, like, he wanted to run, but there really was nowhere for him to run. And when there was, he didn't look as explosive as we normally could see. He couldn't outrun anybody.
Patrick Queen closed that gap that one time. That should have been a first down, and Queen just absolutely just closed that gap.
So I think he was still feeling the last effects of that rib injury, whatever the injury was. They really didn't fully disclose it, that he suffered a couple games ago. But I think according to practice and how he's saying he's back, like I said, that throw looked a lot better than the ones he had in the game on Sunday. So I think he's fully healthy and ready to go for this Thursday. He says he's been taking care of his body because he's learning from the vets, and that's the benefits of having the Bobby Wagners, the Michael Davis, even though he's inactive, but he's been around for a long time, and he's really hasn't, done much, but he's probably a good mentor in the locker room. Marcus Mariota, of course, is in the quarterback room. So I think he's good to go. But yeah, I think he was still hemmed up a little bit Sunday.
Don't you think it was also has a lot to do with what Pittsburgh was doing?
Oh yeah, they weren't allowing him to do anything.
Used to playing Lamar Jackson twice a year, so they're a little bit more in tune with how to stop a running quarterback.
Sure.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
They were making
really
sure
good.
that
in their rush lanes, their rush lane integrity, as they call it. That's the big word now. And they were not kind of collapsing and giving Jayden those places to run. They were always coming up and keeping him right there, and then hopefully making a play on him.
Yeah, and Sam Cosme took credit.
Yes.
Sorry, Trey.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, Sam Cosme took credit for one of the late runs where Jayden Daniels was trying to run through the middle, and Sam completely missed his guy. He said he knew 95 was going to go inside, and he just didn't take him. And that was able to stop what, again, would have been a strong run from Jayden Daniels had Sam Cosmi blocked the right individual.
Yeah, and to go along with the rushing lanes, they were pretty much forcing Jayden Daniels to hand the ball off on RPOs.
Yeah.
They were making sure that he handed off to Eckler or McNichols. And I think that's also why they got more carries than we probably wanted them to see, because they were forced to, because if he would have kept it, he would have been pulverized. So now we got B-Rob coming back. We'll talk about that in a minute. Maybe that we can afford to hand it off when forced to, and some better results.
And I think that's where the absence of B-Rob in this game was felt the most, because you don't want Austin Eckler running up the middle 15 to 17 times a game. That's a B-Rob's job. He can punish the defenders more than Eckler can. I mean, Eckler does what he does very well, but it's not going up the middle and keeping those tackles from getting that big rush. And so they don't have to sort of, the linebackers don't have to deal with the play action as much, because it's not B-Rob back there. It's Eckler. Right. Eckler's going to do some good things on the outside, but going up the middle is not his thing, nor should it be. He's just not built for that.
Sure.
So the absence of Robinson had a lot to do with Jayden Daniels also not being able to have successful RPOs.
Yeah, and well, again, the confusion on not running Chris Rodriguez there is certainly in my head, because it just seems like that was the way to go. Like, I mean, he is the fourth running back, not just based off of talent, but it's a skill set thing. You have Brian Robinson, who's your bruiser. You have Austin Eckler, who's more of your scat back, your thunder and lightning with those two, right? And then McNichols is kind of a blend of the two, but he's not a super strong rusher.
Yeah.
And he's, an average receiving back, right? And then you have Chris Rodriguez, who is a one-cut slasher guy who's going to take a contact type deal. And if you would have put him in and given him 11 snaps, or 11 rushes, then see what he can do. I mean, I guarantee it wouldn't have been any worse than what they've already did there with the rushing attack that they did. So
especially after his success he had last game.
So JG here had commented this early. I saw the refs ignored the face mask on Sanistraw. Can't believe that no call. Thought it was Benjamin St. Juice.
It was St. Juice.
It was
St. Juice, right? So I just wanted to make sure there wasn't another one that I missed. But Benjamin St. Juice was absolutely having his by George Pickens was having his face mask just thrusted back into his nostrils, and there was no call. And it was a bit frustrating all day with the refs, namely at the end with the spot. Now, Stoner, you went back and you rewatched it. Trav, I know you're out on social media, so you've seen people post about it, and let's just call it what it is. It was a horrendous spot. He might still not have made it. Okay, Zach, it could have very well have not been. It would have been a measurement type deal had it been spotted correctly. But I mean, they were a full yard off, gents.
Yeah, they were. It was pretty
bad. But they're not. Yeah, you're right. I mean, even if they had, and you've seen them do it before too, where they go to replay and they see that the spot was like 6 inches off, and they'll move the football. They'll say, okay, it should be 6 inches this way, and then bring out the chains. I was surprised they didn't do at least that. But in today's day and age, I'm still perplexed. And this isn't a rant on this game and this spot, and I'm not saying this is why the Commanders lost. But the technology that we use nowadays for trying to get 10 yards and using these two sticks in a chain, and older gentlemen trying to control these, and being out there with these superhuman athletes and trying to figure out where that ball is. I don't know how many times I see a guy run in to spot the ball, and he gets to the spot, and then he starts walking towards the hash marks, right, to spot the ball, and he goes crooked. And it's not, it really doesn't affect that play because it was like a gain of 4 or something. So it doesn't. But I'm like, why is he walking crooked? You can see him walking at an angle, and you're just it drives me crazy. And Nathan, you watch Premier League soccer or Euros or World Cup or whatever, and the technology that they have.
Oh my gosh!
They can tell when a guy is next to another guy, and somebody kicks it 70 yards away, and they can tell that exact instant whether his fingernail is
Mhm.
further than the guy next to him
Mhm.
because of the technology and the chips or whatever they're. And we can't figure out 10 technology for 10 yards. At
Yeah.
some point, that's got to change. With all the technology in this world, that has got to change.
You can even look to tennis, which for years before
Oh,
even
yeah.
EuroLeague and Euros, they had the technology to tell
Mhm.
whether or not a ball was on the line or not. Like they were
Right.
able to do that decades ago. And here we
Right.
have the NFL, like you said,
The-
using human power, which is full of errors.
Yeah.
And it's just a rough thing. My biggest thing with this, right? When you're talking about using this technology, how about when you have a pile? You know, it's the easiest thing in the world at the goal line. Just shove a guy underneath the big guys, and as long as he gets underneath them
Yeah.
and they throw the hands up, it does not matter
Yeah.
at that point because you have no clue where the ball is. They called touchdown, so it
Yeah.
doesn't matter if he stopped and he had a snack at the 1-inch line.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it is very, very frustrating. And then we've
And then you hear
on
with
both sides. Yeah.
the yellow line you see on TV is not actually the first down marker. It's like, okay,
Right.
so what are we watching on TV then?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
what is-
Well, I mean, it's
Always.
not, but you should see the technology that they use just for that and how advanced
Yeah.
that technology.
Yeah.
It's more accurate than those chains are. I can tell you that because it's using such precise technology
no
to
more chain gang.
put that line. But I mean, they still how they figure out when they bring out the chains and they're not like bringing it straight out, right? They have a tag that they put on a certain link of a chain that's right on a yard line.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so that's where they know that tag, a yard line is this wide. The little tag is this wide. So you could put it an inch or two on either side of that line. And that inch means everything. I mean, Gene Steratore is famous for taking an index card and trying to slide it between the ball and the stick to see if there was any space there.
Yeah, that was a pretty
right.
fat.
That's how close this is. It's a game of inches. You're only trying to go 10 yards. Think about that. 30 feet in 3 times of trying to get there. It's only 10 yards. We have to be more precise with this stuff, and hopefully it's somewhere down the line. But man, it's crazy how archaic the first down system is in the NFL. $1 billion industry. Billions of dollars. They need to do something about that.
Yeah, and for Locked On Law here saying they can put chips in the football, but it doesn't tell you where the player's feet were or if he was in bounds or anything else. I'm telling you, the technology exists to be able to, chips or no chips, to be able to, without a doubt, tell where things are. The technology is in play.
They put the chips in the soccer ball, and again, they know exactly where the player is. 70 yards away the instant that ball is touched by the player's foot so that they can tell if he was offsides. And they can tell down to the millimeter. They're literally, sometimes you see it and it's like a fingernail.
Yeah.
And you're going, that technology is insane. How come we can't have that in the NFL?
That being said, I agree. It's all an excuse. You can't blame the refs. You had opportunities. You had the passes before that. You shouldn't have given up a touchdown. It was a game Washington kicked themselves in the butt and only lost to 1 point against a team that is what they're striving to be, right? A team that's great for decades and has turnover, but still good, still one of the premier, organizations in the NFL. So I get it. I want to see us win those games. I'm not a fan of moral victories, unlike Stoner up there, who believes in moral victories, but we're not going to have to worry about that because I think we've got a shot to beat these Philadelphia Eagles, and we're going to be talking about that in the game. Locked On Law says there's zero chance Washington is winning this game. They couldn't stop Pittsburgh's offense. Philadelphia's offense is better. I'll tell you why that isn't the case here on Ref the District. Stick with us. Welcome to the game here on episode 199 of Ref the District. We're going to be breaking down the NFC East crown battle that's going to happen here on Thursday night football. So it means it's a late night. And so, these three gents are old and tired. So we need that don't sleep energy to keep us up during the game, keep us pumped up. And you can get yours as well by heading out to don'tsleepenergy.com. Use the code DISTRICT. Get yourself 10% off your entire order. It's a local DMV company. So you're supporting a local business and doing some good there by using that code, getting yourself pumped up either on their regular, their sugar-free, their shots, or maybe just you want some of that fancy gear like I have right here behind me. Don't Sleep Energy. It makes you great. As of course, also make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and share it with your friends so they can join in on the conversation as we talk about the Washington Commanders facing off against the Philadelphia Eagles on Thursday Night Football. There's some Washington, they're not the favorites going in, but they're also not horrible dogs. Just overall, Trev, how are you feeling before we get to the Trev's News Network there? How are you feeling about this game going into it?
I'm nervous.
Ooh.
Really nervous. It's a short week. We don't know how this team responds to short weeks. If you want to base on the past, we can, but I really don't want to because it's a brand new era right now, and we have a lot of different faces on the team. The wide receiving room of the Eagles scares me. I'm not including Jahan Dotson, but I might have to include Jahan Dotson to be real because, he knows our cornerbacks. He knows how their schemes, their techniques. So I wouldn't be surprised if he got off a little bit tomorrow night and rubbed that in our face. You can just tell just by watching the previous games and just watching last Sunday. We let George Pickens manhandle us. We let Mike Williams come in on one target, and that happens to be the go-ahead game-sealing touchdown, victory game-winning touchdown. Our corners are not ready for this. Our defense as a whole might be ready for this, but when it comes to just man coverage one-on-one, our corners are not like that. And so I think that, though, if we keep Jalen Hurts in the pocket, make him a pocket passer, he might struggle a little bit. We might have a better chance. But just from the paper, looking at the paper and the rosters, I'm not too confident, really. That Marshawn Lattimore injury is concerning to me. I think this might be the very first time I will raise my eyebrow or a little bit of a question as to, did we make the right trade for Marshawn Lattimore? I know he said in his first interview with the team that it's a new injury, so he doesn't know how long it's going to be, but he already missed a couple games in New Orleans with the hamstring injury.
Yeah.
And they kept it sealed about how severe it is, that they're going to take every step to evaluate it and this and that. And this man's been at practice and he's just been a sideline guest the whole time, just with his jersey on, stretching out, talking to the people he needs to talk to, but he's not out on the practice field. And we even did walkthroughs every day this week, and he didn't participate in any of the walkthroughs that took place. So it's kind of concerning. I know people are saying we got him for the long haul to make a playoff run, but we got division games to get through before we get to the playoff run, and it starts now. He's already missed 2 games for us. He's missing this game on Thursday. I feel like we traded for a player like him for this game that's coming on Thursday. The only advantage that we have is after Thursday, we don't play again until the 24th, and that's another division game against Dallas. We probably don't need him against Dallas, but it'd be really, really nice to have him for Dallas and to start another division push and a playoff push for us. But that's just a little bit concerning. My meter for concern on that has now gone up to like a 2 or 3. At first, it was like
That's
a 0.
still pretty low.
It was, but like at first it was 0 because I was like, oh, it's a Devontae Adams situation. He's gonna, come here, dress up, practice, be on the field like that. He's already missed 2 games, but nah, he's missed 4 games now since dating back to whatever that week was. So a little concerned. Yeah, I know I probably rambled on that, but I'm a little bit more concerned than I have been all season for this game right here. I wasn't this concerned against Pittsburgh. I wasn't this concerned against B-Rob. But now we're making a name for ourselves in the NFL. Playoff race is getting tight because Arizona is 6-4 now. We beat breaks off of Arizona, but they're only a game behind us for a playoff spot in our conference. So it's time to get serious. It's time for playoff football to start pretty much right now. And not having Marshawn out there is concerning for what we're trying to achieve at this rate right now. So.
Stoner, you share these kind of concerns on the short week here for the Commanders going up north to face the Philadelphia Eagles?
Yeah, I'm concerned. Anytime it's a short week, it's concerning, but it's a short week for Philly as well. And in fact, they're coming from Dallas and played a little bit later than we did. Sure, they're at home, so they can sleep in their own beds, but I mean, you're talking about an hour and a half train ride to get up there. It's nothing from here to Philly. So we're on even ground, at least. That's kind of what I'm saying there. And I wouldn't say that either team has an advantage or disadvantage based on Thursday night. But of course, you got to be concerned anytime you're playing Philly. Philly may have a record, a good record, and you want to say that they haven't beaten anybody, and maybe we'll get to that a little bit later, which is true. But they're still Philly, and they're still a talented football team, regardless of who they've played. They have a little something called Super Bowl equity. Right? Yeah. This is a team that's been in the Super Bowl in the last few years. And so they have, whenever you look at their record and you say they haven't beaten anybody, fine. We haven't either, but they have Super Bowl equity. They've been there. They've done that with largely this group. So, yes, it's very concerning to go up there on a Thursday night up to their place in Philly and play them. And, it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough.
Well, Washington has played Philly pretty well over the last couple of seasons. We'll have to see how that's going to go. And we're going to talk more about this. But first, Trev's going to bring us all the good information on injuries, who's in, who's out, and why you shouldn't be concerned here with the Trev's News Network.
For all your Commanders news and notes, it's the TNN. Here's Trev.
All right, Trev, let's hear it. What's the news and notes here for the Washington Commanders versus the Philadelphia Eagles?
Not a lot happening as far as outside of injuries going on with the Washington Commanders, so I'm just going to provide the injury report.
All right.
For tomorrow night's game. Like I said earlier, every practice was a walkthrough from Monday, Tuesday, and today. Earlier today, they got on the plane, I think, a few minutes ago to hit on up there. But walkthroughs, no pads, nothing like that. But you heard Dan Quinn mentioning Wednesday is the fastest day of all practices. So you can take this injury report for what it's worth, but it is a little eyebrow raising. So first we have Nick Bellor. He is a DNP. He is out for Thursday night's game, special teams ace. Our kicker, Austin Automatic Seibert, is out again for his second game in a row. Not concerned. Zane Gonzalez came in and showed us he's a capable kicker from far away. So, I'm not too worried about that. And then you got, of course, what I went rambling on was Marshawn Lattimore is out with the hamstring injury.
Out.
Dylan Farrell is on the injury report as a limited Monday and Tuesday, but a DNP today, but there's no game status for him. But I feel like all year he's been like that. He's been in the injury report pretty much since week one. He's missed a couple games, but also when he's on the report, he shows up and he's active on game day. So it might just be a rest day for him because he's dealing with some kind of knee issue still. Our three offensive linemen who have been bugged with injuries, Brandon Coleman, Cornelius Lucas, and Andrew Wiley, were limited every day this week. Coleman with the shoulder, Cornelius Lucas with the ankle, and Wiley with the shoulder. In case you guys remember or forgot on Sunday, Wiley was active. He was just not starting and didn't get to any playing time. But I feel like if it was a playoff game or a more serious game, he would have played himself. So it was really that close to playing. But they're all questionable for Thursday. I look for them to all be playing. Probably we might even see a rotation at left tackle again, depending on these people, the Lucas and Coleman's health, because Coleman played last week and kind of was exposed as the rookie that he is last week. I the taste of a real NFL defense.
Them bad.
Yeah, real bad. But then you got Tyler Bidiash, who came out with the ankle injury but came back in. He was limited and in full today. And then Dante Fowler, Noah Igbe, Jordan McGee, and B-Rob were all full participants. And B-Rob got the word he's green light to go Thursday. So we got our rushing attack back. But
that's big.
Like I said, it's big that we don't have Marshawn Lattimore because we traded him for games like this.
I want to kind of get into this Lattimore deal just a little bit. And I agree that he was brought in for games like this, for division games, for conference games, for big time receivers. But they've proved to us from the very beginning, Adam Peters and Dan Quinn, they play the long game.
Mm-hmm.
They're not in it to play the short game. They're not going to risk further injury of this guy for one game. And Trev, you walked off last week when I said this Pittsburgh game is not a big deal if they lose, right? And now here everybody's saying it wasn't a big deal if they lose, right? Even you said it earlier, Trev. I was going to call you out on it. But I'm telling you what, right now, I'm telling you, let's not get too crazy. This is not a must-win game. Sorry, it's not a must-win game. And please don't interpret that to say that I don't want them to win or they're not going to try to win, all of that. I'm just saying, when you look at the big picture, if they lose this and go to 7-4, and even if Arizona wins and goes to 7-4, just look at the rest of the schedule.
Yeah.
Relatively speaking, it's a cakewalk schedule.
Sure. Cowboys, Titans, Saints, and then hosting the Eagles on the 22nd before finishing out with the Falcons and the Cowboys. Cowboys having lost Dak, Cooper Rush not looking that great.
Exactly.
Kirk Cousins,
next 3 games after this
out there in Atlanta.
And again, even looking at it from a big picture, Trev, if you look at it and you say you got 2 games against Philly,
right?
You're probably, best case scenario is you're going to split with them, right?
Yes.
Well, that means you got to lose one of them, and you're probably going to lose the one on the road, as the odds are, right? So this is on the road against a Philadelphia team that's a very good team, and so the big picture of it is not a must-win game.
Right.
You go from there after that, and if you're at 7-4. You've got 6 games left. You've got to go at least 4-2 or 5-1 if you want a shot at a division, which is what you're trying to do. Because if you want to win the division, you got to win both of these games against Philly.
Sure.
And if you're going to win the division, then you're going to get a home playoff game, which is a big deal, right? Because if you don't win the division, you're going on the road for the first game, and so you don't want to do that.
Yeah, so for the record, the Eagles, by the way, they'll be at the Rams, at the Ravens versus Panthers, versus Steelers, at the Commanders versus Cowboys versus Giants.
So super easy, but a little bit more difficult schedule. I believe their schedule, strength of schedule for the rest of their games is right about mid-level, right? Is somewhere around 18th most difficult, which is not that difficult because again, they've got the Giants and the Cowboys on there, right? But Washington's remaining schedule is the second easiest in the entire NFL.
Wow.
Second easiest.
We go
based on record only, right? Yeah. Even though you've got Philly twice, you don't play anybody decent or really with a winning record except for Philly and Atlanta. Yeah. And you've got some pushovers. Dallas is a pushover right now. They're not always a pushover. They're a pushover. The Titans are a pushover. The Saints are a pushover. Yes. And Atlanta just lost to the Saints. So
Atlanta is such a weird.
Yeah. It's Kirk Cousins, man. That's what it does, man.
He's doing the things we loved to hate on him about. He threw short of the sticks on 4th down.
I know. He hasn't changed a bit, bro.
Fantastic. Well, we're not going to talk about Atlanta until that week comes. Let's stick here with the Eagles. Washington, over the last couple seasons, has only won 1 game against the Eagles, but only one of these games was a big time loss. It was 24-8 all the way back in September of 2022. That being said, they also had an overtime loss last year.
Yep.
As well, losing that one 34-31, came back and played. Remember, this was the game before the trade deadline, and they wanted to see where they're at. And if they won, you think that they would possibly, try to keep pushing through the season, but they lost 38-31. And then they immediately ship away Chase Young, Montez Sweat, and they're like, okay, we're rebuilding for the future now because this team is not good. Not that past performances necessarily have an impact in, the current season, especially with as much of a turnover as we have, but this is a division game, guys, and these things can just go any which way, especially when two teams are running hot, such as these two teams. Only 2 losses for the Eagles. They don't care if they haven't played anybody. They're still winning football games, and Washington doing the same, just coming off a loss to Pittsburgh here. How much, because this is the NFC East crown at stake, and I know, Stoner, you just told us that it's a game you can afford to lose, but you did bring up something very important. So my question is how, like, on the scale of things, this game just to the division crown, how important is this? Because it looks like Philly is probably going to steamroll the Giants in Dallas, right?
Sure.
And unless we serve them a loss, they could possibly sweep the division. Washington still has a bunch of those division games left, have already swept the Giants this season. So how important is it just for the division?
Sure. Yeah. Well, let me put this situation to you this way, right? Let's say you lose this game, and now within the division, that's your first loss in the division. You only had 2 division games. You're beating the Giants 2-0. They've had 2 division games. They're 2-0, Dallas and the Giants. So you lose this, you've got 1 loss, right? And then and then you beat them the next time you play them at home. Then you both have 1 loss in the division, assuming you both win the rest of your division games, right? Yeah. So if you lose this game, you are behind them in your overall record by 1.5 games. So if you beat them here in Washington, now you're only 0.5 game behind in the overall record. And so that means all you have to do is win 1 more game than they do the rest of the year. And they have the harder schedule. So if you end up with 1 more win than them overall and have the same division record, you win the division. Yeah. So all you have to do is take care of business the next time you play them, and take care of business when you play Dallas twice going forward. That's all you have to do to win this division. And of course, do what you're supposed to do against Tennessee and New Orleans and Atlanta, right? There's an easy path, a fairly easy path to winning the division, even if you lose this game. Of course, you want to win it.
I was about to say, doesn't that, in that case, Stoner, mean that if they win it, that they're pretty much, as long as things go the way that you expect them to go, doesn't that mean that they're essentially a lock to win the NFC East at that point?
Pretty close to it. You still have to remember, number one thing
favorite at that point,
right? Your number one thing is your overall record. That's the first thing.
You got to have
a better overall record. Then you go to the division, right? So that's why the division games are so important. So yes, if you win this game, then you have a stranglehold on the division.
Yeah, Philadelphia needs to beat you on the road. Then
this is a bigger game for Philadelphia, believe it or not. It's a bigger game for Philadelphia than it is for Washington because of their more difficult schedule. They've still got Pittsburgh. They've still got Baltimore. They've still got the Rams, right? That was another one. What's their other difficult? That might be the only.
Giants and Cowboys. That's it.
They have Steelers. They have the Ravens. I just had it up. Hold on.
Yeah. And I know they have the Rams and they have the Cowboys and the Giants. That might be it. There should be one more in there somewhere.
They do have the Rams. That's their very next game is that. So it's at Rams, at Ravens, Panthers, Steelers, Cowboys, or Commanders, Cowboys, Giants. Yeah.
Yeah. So they just have a little bit more difficult schedule. So yeah, you win this game, you have a stranglehold, and then that makes the next game that you play against them at home a little bit more important for them. So this game right here really is bigger for them than it is for Washington. But make no mistake, Washington is coming off a loss. They're coming off pissed off at that loss against the Steelers, and that's going to help fuel them. But in the end, fuel isn't always what's going to get that fire going, because talent is always going to win out more than than fuel most times, 9 times out of 10.
No heart of the cards there for Stoner. All right, well, let's talk about how Washington is going to beat the Philadelphia Eagles. Trev, Brian Robinson's back. The Philadelphia Eagles, I'm being told by our one coach Lombard, is a top 3 defense. How much do you feel that matchup, our offense, which is one of the top offenses in the NFL, will match up against one of the top defenses in the NFL?
Well, we kind of went up this path when we played Baltimore, in a sense. I know Baltimore's pass defense has been questionable, but they still had a very good run defense and a defense altogether as a whole. I think if we got B-Rob, I think Philadelphia's defense is to be had. And this is where it comes to they haven't played anybody yet. They haven't beaten anybody yet. Because the offenses they face are from below 500 teams. And they're below 500 for a reason, because their offense is bad, their defense is bad, their special teams is bad. They're bad football teams. They almost lost to Jacksonville Jaguars, who have had a pretty shaky offense, which is kind of crazy because they have Gabe Davis and Brian Thomas, Trevor Lawrence, but he's hurt, and they had Travis Etienne. So they had a little bit more weapons. And Christian Kirk, but he broke his collarbone. So they were on paper at the beginning of the season a nice-looking offense. And Philly almost dropped an L on them, but rallied and won that game, I think 20-16 or something like that. I think having B-Rob back is very good. We can go back to being who we were before this last game on Sunday and the Giants game too that he missed. Because we're a different team when we don't have B-Rob. We might still be efficient, but we're a different looking efficient team when we have B-Rob in the lineup. And I think if we just keep grounding and pounding, we can wear down that defensive front that they have. Jalen Carter, Nakobe Dean, he's a linebacker, but they've got some studs in their linebackers and defensive line, and the Quinyon Mitchell cornerback, and Cooper DeJean, the stud from Iowa, is back there too. So their defense is pretty solid across the board on paper. But I think if we just stick to what we're doing, we have a chance, because they haven't seen an offense like ours. They can watch the film all they want. They've never practiced against it. They can use scout team all they want. They've never practiced against us. So I think if we just stick to what Cliff has been doing to get us to these 7 wins, to get us scoring 30 points a game, to get us having Jayden Daniels getting like Rookie of the Week every week, I think we have a legit shot. I'm more scared about the defense. We'll get to that soon. But for me, I think if we just stick to what we know with B-Rob and get Jayden Daniels going and hit with his legs, we have a legit chance to win, because they've never faced an offense like this before.
Give a shout out here real quick to Smitty's Corner, a new sub. We appreciate you joining us and joining the conversation here, Smitty. 87 watching, only 30 likes. Get the likes up if you like or if you love Washington. We appreciate you, Smitty, again with that. And do hit that like button. Make sure that you're sharing this with your friends too, so they can join the conversation as we have a great time here on Ref the District. Right now, talking about the NFC East crown at stake on Thursday Night Football. Stoner, you believe in this defense of the Eagles, and they are ranked very highly in how low of yards they allow per game. That's both in the passing tack and rushing tack, both top 5 in the NFL. Points per game, not much difference. 2 points per game difference between Washington's defense and their defense. Now, talking about what teams they've played, as Trev has mentioned, they played Green Bay, gave up 29 points there. They've lost to Atlanta after giving up 22 points. New Orleans was a low-scoring game. Tampa Bay put 33 on them, and Tampa Bay won that game. Cleveland was a like game, a like team. 20-16 was a win for Philadelphia there. And, of course, they beat the bricks off of New York 28-3. Cincinnati, they won 37-17. That was a game that was more of a shootout for Washington. Of course, that was before Joe Wood Jr. kind of got his team together, worked out some of the communication issues. Stoner, again, their strength, our strength. So where are the weaknesses that Washington's going to exploit? And then JG has a question that I'll follow up with this in a moment.
What we're going to exploit with them is, it's a very difficult question, because they are very sound on both sides of the ball. right? I mean, they do it against the pass. They do it against the run defensively. Pittsburgh gave the entire league the blueprint for how to defeat Washington. You've got to keep Jayden Daniels in the pocket. Now, Jayden Daniels can beat you in the pocket. It's not like they're saying you
looked like a pretty good pocket passer to me.
Right.
Looked like a pretty good pocket passer to me.
But if you had to take between the two, you'd rather keep him in the pocket than have him running 70 yards downfield. Sure. So do that. And also, when you have the ball, you have to control the line of scrimmage and you have to run the ball and keep that time of possession. Pittsburgh only averaged 3.3 yards per carry, but they carried the rock 40 times for 140 yards. Mm-hmm. That's how you can beat Washington. So Washington has to be able to figure that out. But when you look at the Eagles' defense, they're 5th against the run. They only give up 100 yards per game, basically. And when you take just all the kind of the basic stats that you want to look at, everything that both teams do is in the top half of the league everywhere you look, except for one category. And that is Washington's run defense, which wasn't too bad early on. Do you know where they're ranked right now in the league?
Not very high.
28th.
28th in the league. They're giving up 142.7 yards per game.
And
guess who's on the other side of the ball?
Saquon Barkley.
Saquon Barkley.
That reverse hurdle.
I mean, it was insane.
We'll talk about it.
Just
glad it wasn't on us.
He's playing free. He's on a good team. He's got his money. He's playing so free. He's healthy. They're right, Trev. They're using him the right way. And against Washington in the past, he's got 794 rushing yards in 9 games. Right? I mean, he's averaging almost 90 yards a game against Washington. He's got 8 touchdowns in 9 games while he was with the Giants. The guy's a problem. And then you just look everywhere with Philadelphia's offense. And when you've got Devontae Smith and AJ Brown is averaging almost 20 yards per catch.
Yeah, dog.
Mm-hmm.
Think about that for AJ Brown. He's got 19.8 yards per catch. And then Devontae Smith, just a measly 13.2 yards per catch. Between them, they've got 7 touchdowns. And their 2 tight ends are averaging 13 yards a catch.
Yeah.
Almost. And they've got another touchdown there. And just look what Barkley's doing. He's running at almost 6 yards a carry right now. He's second in the league in rushing behind King Henry. Their offense is legit. Their defense is legit. Jalen Hurts is legit. It's very difficult to kind of see what Washington can do to stop them or how to overcome that defense. I'm having trouble seeing what you can do. But what I have faith in is I have faith in this coaching staff and that they are able to figure out a way. And they're going to say that Pittsburgh game and the Giants before them, which they lost the time of possession against the Giants the week before, even though they won, right? Yeah. We've got to change that. We've got Brian Robinson back, and he doesn't have to average 5 yards a carry, but he needs to touch the ball 18 to 20 times in this game and just control the clock and keep Jalen Hurts and that offense on the sideline.
Man, Stoner, this is David and Goliath by the sounds of what Stoner's pitting us.
I mean, he's got a point.
Sure. And we always do appreciate the objectivity here. Maybe not all. Stoner tends to be a little bit of a Debbie Downer. So we do, but no, we
lift us back up, Nathan. Lift us up.
Yeah. So the thing is yes, they do have a lot of talent over there. They have also had their share of troubles, and it's not like they're an unbeatable team, especially for this Washington team, whose offense is very explosive. That has been one of the better offenses, even when they haven't been great, right? If you're looking at the games where they were low scoring, it was because they just weren't converting in the red zone. It wasn't that they weren't moving the ball.
You're right.
This last game against the Steelers was probably Jayden Daniels' worst game as a pro, and he still looked pretty decent. like as a pocket passer, there was a couple of throws that didn't look great, but honest to goodness, if you go back, he was throwing the ball where he needed to. Even the one crosser from Zacchaeus that on first pass looked like it was just a bad throw, that it was too far in front. It was
a good, perfect throw.
Yeah, it was a great throw. Zacchaeus just wasn't there because he didn't I don't think he ran the route right. I think that there was expectation there, but it was a great throw. And that one would have been a big yard. You had the throw to Luke. That one was a little off. Okay. So that there's still some going here, but you have Jayden Daniels who is playing. You're talking about Saquon playing loose and free. That video Trev mentioned earlier, the I'm back one, he looked happy. That was one of the things some people had pointed out, that this Steelers game was probably the first time we saw him not look happy on the sidelines. Normally he's got a smile and everything. He at practice was saying he's back, which tells me he felt good after throwing that ball. Okay. It tells me that rib injury is starting to really heal, and we're going to see the Jayden Daniels that is explosive and the one that's going to wreak havoc on the Philadelphia Eagles defense. This is going to be their first true test. Okay. I read you off the teams that they played. They don't have a lot of great offenses that they're going up against. So this is going to be a real big test for them, as much as it's a test for this offense, or for this offense to go up against that defense. And yes, the defense is a bit questionable, but we have seen this defense hold Kyler Murray, who is overall having a good season. And they were able to hold him to not looking good. Right. And I think Jalen Hurts, as much as I like Hurts, okay, and then partially biased with the Boomer Sooner stuff, he is susceptible to really bad games sometimes.
Sure.
And like when I say really bad games, I mean, why is this guy an NFL starter type games? Then he has these games where he just is lights out and you're like, God, this guy's an MVP candidate. So, but he has both of those in them. So Washington needs to do great things, as JG here saying, Luvu, Chen, Wagner need to have one heck of a game.
Yeah.
And it's possible. And we've seen this defense get after quarterbacks, and we've seen them do some good things. So as long as Saquon doesn't absolutely kill you and gash you, you should have a chance. Now, I'm not saying that BSJ is going to hold AJ Smith, because that's just not going to happen.
Or AJ Brown, too.
Or AJ Brown, sorry. Probably not even holding AJ Smith either. So the point still stands. But yes, it is. To me, I think this is going to be a fantastic game. It's another primetime game, and Jayden Daniels so far in primetime has looked absolutely worth the price of admission.
Sure.
So, I mean, there's a lot. I feel like Washington, maybe it's a little bit of the burgundy and gold glasses here. So, but it does to me seem like Washington should have more than a puncher's chance here. Now, that being said, I did bring up JG had a question earlier. And it does go with this offense, because we have seen it be stagnant at times here over probably the last few games. Now, that could coincide with the injury, but JG here is asking the big question: is this the start of the Kingsbury second half slide? Let's not hope not, is what JG says. So it's, for those who might not be familiar with this, Cliff Kingsbury's offenses do tend to kind of hit a snag in the second half of seasons, where they looked really good in the first 8 games, and then the last 8 games, maybe not nearly as good. That being said, he still put up top offenses during his time in Arizona. So I think the second half thing is a little bit overrated. But gents, start with you, Trev. Do you think this could be the start of a Cliff Kingsbury second half slide?
No, I don't. I think this is a brand new Cliff Kingsbury we're talking about. I don't think history is going to repeat himself when it comes to this team. Previous regimes, he was, head coach, offensive coordinator, head coach. Like, I feel like he was trying to prove to the league more than actually learn the game and learn how to execute a well-produced offense. Now, he did do that because he had Kyler Murray and he had, Caleb Williams at USC, and he's been to Texas Tech with Pat Mahomes, this and that. But I think being away from the game, from the pro game a little bit, kind of helped him. I trust Adam Peters and Dan Quinn, and I feel like they would not have hired him if they thought, because I'm sure that stat has been brought up to them. I'm with the way they research and do their due diligence, I'm sure they've seen all those numbers and still went forward with them because they believe in him. And so far, he's panning out. So I think it's a brand new Cliff. DQ said we haven't seen what this offense, half of what this offense can do, pretty much in so many words today at his press conference. But gives us hope that we're going to see some more different things. But brand new Cliff, brand new era, brand new regime, brand new attitude, mindset. And it feels like he's calling the game, letting the game come to him when he's calling games for us now. Yeah, he has a couple of moments where it's like, Cliff, what are you doing? Like last week, like, why are you doing that reverse pass to Jayden Daniels on third down, like, or whatever? Like, what's that for?
To be fair, if it would have worked, if Highsmith did
it would have
down, then we all would have been
would have worked.
He's a genius.
He's brilliant.
I know. It would have worked, but still, you know what I mean. But I feel like he's letting the game come to him. He knows how to get his young quarterback settled in rather than just throwing him out there in the fire and say, do what you did to get the Heisman. We're seeing that with Jayden Daniels. He's getting more and more comfortable as every game goes with the offense. So, yeah, I don't see that happening right now. I think that's long gone in the past. But I know Stoner probably thinks it's.
No, I'm actually in agreement with you, Trev, because because everything that those records showed and everything, right? Everything that we saw in the past, if you just look at his offenses that we've seen in the past, that's not the same offense that he's running this year. It's a completely different offense. It's not an air raid attack that they're running. It's not. It's nothing like what you saw in Arizona when he was running that team over there. So that's some proof that he has evolved. And like you said, Trev, this is not something that is all of a sudden somebody has just sort of mentioned to him that, hey, you have this second half issue. This is something that I'm sure they've been working on and planning on for an entire season. Again, this coaching staff and this organization has long-term ideas in mind. They don't look just sort of what's right in front of them. They have a plan to go through an entire season. If we don't get Marshawn Lattimore until the last 3 games and the playoff run and the next 2 years, that's okay. And the same thing with Cliff, I believe, in this offense. I've seen the change in what he's been doing since he got here. Mm-hmm. And that's why I think that it's not going to be a thing this year. It's okay to kind of look at it like JG said, right? So it's okay to sort of keep that in mind, but I just don't think it's going to be a thing this year. I think there's just something about this staff and this front office and the leadership that's in this room that is just not going to allow things to happen the way things have happened in the past around here, whatever it may be. And what on the field, off the field, designing offenses, attitudes, the way guys do things. It's a different mindset, and it's in the right way of doing things. And to me, that's mostly Dan Quinn, but that filters down to Cliff Kingsbury in this case.
Sure. I hate to say this because there's still a lot of season left, but I'm actually kind of excited about the off season because of that. That this is an organization, a head coach, a GM, and an owner that are going to be very introspective in the off season, and they're going to be like, why didn't this season go the way we wanted it
what
to?
Did
why
I do
did
wrong?
it? Yeah, what did I do wrong? What can I do better? And not to say that all the changes that they're going to come of that are going to work out, but that's a great way to make yourself better. And we're seeing that from Dan Quinn and him having talked about his reflecting on his time in Atlanta. And I've seen that in the offense. To Stoner's point here, we've talked about the great coaches that they brought on. Brian Johnson, this is a revenge game for him. If there's anybody who knows the weaknesses
you're right.
You got a coach in the room who can tell you, hey, dude can't throw left. Right,
whatever.
One of the things that Jayden Daniels people had been hating on him about, and then what's he do? He throws left almost the entire game. But yeah, you have Brian Johnson, who is on the offensive staff. You have Anthony Lynn, who's the run game coordinator, and they're working together. These are guys with head coach experience. These are guys who have been successful in the league for a long time. And they're working together with Cliff Kingsbury to have the offense and, built together and do some exciting things. And Jersey here mentioning Dan Quinn said yesterday in the interview that they haven't even used half of their offense. Now that's possible. That's a little coach speaking there, trying to make people realize like, hey, there's still more to come. But I believe it.
Yeah, I do too.
With this offense, because you have a rookie quarterback who is starting to open up things with what is available, because you could see that this offense, and we talked about it early on, they were going to lean on the run game to kind of ease Jayden Daniels in. The thing is they have a quarterback that they can rely on to win the game with his arm. And so that's why I definitely think that there's still some more things going on there. So it's going to be exciting. Broad here telling us that Brian Johnson
was the weakness for the Eagles.
Yeah, it was the weakness there. So is it maybe.
I've got one more thing to expand on, and Trev kind of mentioned this earlier, and this is a positive for Washington going into tomorrow night. Trev said that they haven't played an offense / quarterback like this all year, right? This is who they've played this year. Jordan Love, Kirk Cousins, Derek Carr, Baker Mayfield, Deshaun Watson, Joe Burrow, Trevor Lawrence, Cooper Rush / Lance, whatever his name is, Trey Lance, and Daniel Jones, who's probably the closest that you can get to Jayden Daniels, because Trey Lance doesn't count. He played, garbage minutes most of the time. So they haven't played an offense like this with Jayden Daniels, and that's a huge advantage, because all they've done is played drop back quarterbacks, guys who are not a threat to run, other than Daniel Jones, whom they've played 20 times over the course of the last few years, whatever. So that's a massive advantage to Washington. And I think you're going to see them, Washington, that is, use that and use Jayden's legs in this game. Trev said he looked healthy in practice in the walkthrough today, right? He's seems to be a little more free with himself. And I think that's going to translate to him running the ball a lot more. And we don't know if Philadelphia can stop it, because they haven't had to all year. So we'll see what happens.
Grimjaw here appropriately wanting us to do a fact check on that, saying Dan Quinn said that. I don't remember him saying that in the presser. From Nikki J here on the 12th of November, Dan Quinn praised offensive coordinator Cliff Kingsbury for what he's done with the offense so far, how he's helped develop guys, his creativity, etc. In quotations, if you think that all of our playbook has been seen, you would be mistaken, Quinn said. So maybe not quite half as was reported earlier, but in that same sense there, like there's more things to come in the deal. So I appreciate Grimjaw forcing us to find that quote there from Nikki J, and some good conversation to go with that one. So Jayden Daniels is going to be the X factor probably overall. But gents, I want to ask you, because we had some issues with our wide receiver core. In fact, 1-2 here calling out De'Ami Brown directly earlier. De'Ami Brown was overhyped this offseason. He's always struggled with concentration drops. He's not any better than we drafted him. Should have traded him over Dotson. Don't know if that's true. We'll face Dotson, who has not looked good for the Philadelphia Eagles. So my question is, because we praised De'Ami just a couple weeks ago, and then he has a not great game against, where the best thing he did was not throw it back to Jayden Daniels. But who is the person who needs to step up for Washington to win this game?
You want me to say it? I'll say it.
Go ahead.
Olamide Zaccheaus. He's got a
revenge game
up.
For him.
I can't believe I didn't give him my no-go in our instant reaction last week. But look, they're sticking with him at punt returner. Dan Quinn loves him, and they should. He should love him. He's a very reliable guy. I understand that he's had kind of a muff once before earlier this year, and he had, the drop maybe even a couple of bad routes in this last game. But as long as he doesn't fumble any of these punts and give the ball to the other team, and he makes some of those catches that he's supposed to, he's a huge part of this offense. And when you put aside all of the usual suspects, the B-Robs and Jaydens and Ertz and Terry McLaurin and such, he's a guy that will get you 2 or 3 catches a game that are huge for this team. And you need him because you don't want to go into this extra 10 days where one of your priorities is finding a punt returner and then throwing him out there for the first time all year. So you need him back there. You need him to be confident in returning those punts, whatever it may be, just catching it or getting a few yards. I think he's kind of the X factor in this game.
I think he's getting the looks. Real quick, I think he's getting the looks so much back there because Jamison Crowder's an IR and they have.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, he has his 21
is open for Crowder. Notably, they haven't not started to practice him. Yeah.
Right. So I think after this game, they probably will because we don't come back until the 24th. It's like a mini bye for us. So maybe Ozzy will go back to just sticking the catching balls out of the slot rather than the punt return. But I don't know. But for me, it's going to have to be BSJ. I'm sorry. I'm not just doing that to pick on him because literally there were doubts about Jeremy Chin the first few weeks. Like, did we waste our money on that? But he's really come around to his game too, and he's one of the top guys in defense. Mikey Sanishiro is holding his own as a rookie, playing a position that he does not want to play, but holding it down because of who we have back there. Noah Igby, who Dan Quinn was familiar with, was a high draft pick in Dallas. He's provided us some nice serviceable minutes, some serviceable snaps too back there. So pretty much, and then you go to linebacker. Wagner's doing his thing. Luvu's doing his thing. And then our line's doing his thing as best as it can with our injuries that we have. You know, John Allen gone. Sheldon Day is producing. Fedarian Mathis is having a better year. Johnny Newton is finding his way. And then Farrell and Fowler, especially Fowler, are doing great and better off the edge than we anticipated. The only person who has to explain for his mistakes almost after every game is Benjamin St. Juste. And I feel like he's the only one that is not producing as much or as well as all the other guys I've mentioned back there on that defense. And I'm not just saying to pick on him, but we really need him to take what he's telling the reporters about his techniques and worry about guarding everything and looking over here and looking left and looking right. Well, take that and write it down and study it so you can bring it to the field this game because we need you. It's getting old. You haven't explained why you're getting beat on a game-winning touchdown, why you have probably the most top 5 DPI penalties in the league for one player. How you've given up so many yards for your DPI as a player. Like, you got to figure that out yourself and bring it and silence everybody calling for your job. And I'm not just picking on him. I'm just being honest. He is the weakest link on our defense in the secondary. It's BSJ. I mean, I know that Pickens' catch was great on Noah, but you couldn't cover that play any better. It's a hell of a catch. Yeah. And I know, Noah's been burnt a couple times. Mikey's been burnt a couple times, but BSJ is a habitually burnt player for us, and he just needs to put his money where his mouth is. Stop telling us what you can do and just do it. Yeah, because
I would like
to come down to the last play of the game.
Yeah, I would like to see his play match his PFF score.
Yes, I know. Like, what?
Yeah,
what?
For those who might not be in the know, Benjamin St. Juste was the highest rated defender. And PFF, which is probably one of the big reasons why people don't trust PFF.
Highest rated where? In the entire league?
No, and that game
for Washington.
For Washington. Yeah. So as much grief as, again, and I agree, when I watch back and I look at it, he often is step for step with his wide receivers. He just isn't turning around, or he's getting a little too handsy. It's the same thing you could say for like Joey Porter Jr., who people love. Yeah. You have Sauce Gardner, who's been called on a lot of pass interferences. So they're
pretty good.
Yeah, these guys are really good. They're a step above Benjamin St. Juste, but he's been doing the things he has to do. But he does make bonehead mistakes. I don't understand how you can give the guy a 10-yard cushion and still let them run by you. I really have a hard time with that one. I cannot defend that particular one. But yes,
the cushion was about as long as your explanation for what happened on that play after the game.
Yeah,
paragraphs on paragraph.
Yeah. So Grimjaw's going to agree with you. Benjamin St. Juice is there. Brian is going to go with Brian Robinson, but I'm going to go with TJ's here. And my difference maker is going to be Frankie Louvu. I do feel that, like Kyle says, Hurts can hold on to the ball forever, hoping we see some more big sacks from Fowler again. Now, Kyle's going to go with Fowler on this one, but I think Frankie Louvu has shined in and out of games this entire season. And if he has the impact game that he is capable of, I think Washington can absolutely steal this one away from the Philadelphia Eagles. But that's coming from a guy who's wearing the burgundy and gold glasses. And so that might not be something that our Eagles fans might appreciate. But tell you what, it's the Washington Commanders versus the Philadelphia Eagles on Thursday Night Football. And we've got a special guest. It's Lee Mayock coming on here to talk to us about the Eagles side of things here on Ref the District. Let's welcome Lee Mayock here to Ref the District. For her first time, she is the host of Breeze and Eagles.
Guys, how are you?
Doing great.
Good,
We
how are
appreciate you
you?
jumping on live here with us on our episode 199. It's Thursday Night Football. It's the Battle of the East.
Okay.
Yeah,
You
so
have a big plan for 200.
we are going to give away fantastic segue into the fact that we'll be giving away a $200 gift card to Fanatics.
Oh, sick.
So, yeah.
Where you have to buy Commanders gear. So if you win it, you
Yeah.
have to buy Commanders gear.
That's brutal. You had me up until that.
You can do it. You'll be fine.
So, by the way, I did see your Believe in hat that you have for your Eagles content, and I was like, well, that's pretty clever. So
Absolutely clever.
yeah.
There's so many words that it works with. Like I do it a little too much. I get caught. My phone actually sometimes autocorrects it to an LEIGH at the end of the word. Like that's how extra I am with it. I need to chill.
Yeah, no, it's fair. As a guy whose last name is commonly misspelled, I completely understand the need to make sure you correct people over and over again. And we're probably going to correct you over and over again here as we talk about these two teams. My question to start off here for you, Lee, is Philadelphia is 7-2 on the year. And so it seems like it should be all kind of good vibes coming out of Philadelphia, but you kind of get the gist, national media and even local media, things aren't as rosy as they should be for a 2-loss team. You got fans fighting with the head coach, and you've got a team that is top 5 in offense and defense, but nobody's talking about them. Why is that?
Okay, so here's the thing with Philly. The Philly fans really watch the game. Philly fans really know football. And Philly fans have been disappointed time and time again. It's almost a trauma response. We can't get too high because the next thing drops. You know what I mean? And it was just it's been too up and down. The record sounds great. The schedule has been pretty easy, as has yours. And it's just we can't believe in it too deeply yet. I saw Andrew Brandt posted a tweet after the Cowboys win the other day, and he was like, I think the Eagles fans are the only people that don't think the Eagles are Super Bowl contenders. And it's because we're afraid to. We're not ready yet. I mean, the Jags game, that was ugly. I mean, it's just too much up and down, and we've been through it too much to be all in. And I think that's a fair coping mechanism.
My question for you, Lee, I know you got to talk football, this particular game, but I'm always curious about how somebody kind of gets into their fandom. Okay, you're an Eagles fan. How did you, as many people know or may not know, that you're the daughter of Mike Mayock, who was the Raiders GM and TV career and played in the league. We can't forget that part as well. But how do you become an Eagles fan when, just down the road is the nation's capital and the Washington Redskins and all that?
Oh my goodness. Okay. I'm from Philly. I am from Philly.
Okay.
My dad is from Philly. My grandparents are from Philly.
All
Born
right.
and raised Philly. I actually live in Philly right now too. And once you're ingrained in the fan base, there's nothing else like it. It's just family. And you guys see it. We can all fight with each other, but anyone comes for us and it's game over. We're throwing snowballs at nice little Santa Clauses. It's a different vibe, and you'll only get it if you're from here. So
got it.
Mm-hmm.
What's up, Leah? How you doing?
Hey,
So my question for you is Nick Sirianni. A lot of talk early in the season. He was on the hot seat, and then all of a sudden he shaves his head, and you guys have been on a roll, quote unquote, since he shaved his head. If you guys make it to the playoffs and get an early round exit, or don't even reach the playoffs for some reason, or just don't make the Super Bowl, is his hot seat getting hotter, or are you guys going to give him another chance next year, or what's the deal with Nick Sirianni? How safe is his job?
I do. I mean, the seat is still warm, and if anything happens besides going to the Super Bowl, it's burning hot. You can't. The roster that Howie has developed and has given Nick Sirianni as a head coach, it competes with any roster across the league. The talent on the roster is too high, too great, too compatible to have it not executed correctly on the field. And you can't argue with that. So he's been given opportunities. He's been given new coordinators. He's been given, Saquon Barkley. Like, you can't. Any hole that the Eagles have had, Howie has filled, and he's filled it with depth. So you just can't argue with that. So if it's anything less than a Super Bowl, he's on the hot seat, and I respect that.
Well, it kind of lines up here with Locked on Law asking, do you ever get the feeling Howie Roseman can't get the Eagles over the top? You had a Super Bowl victory, first ever for the franchise back in 2017. 2022 falls short of it, and things have been kind of on the rocks since there. You did lose a couple coordinators from that last Super Bowl team. You mentioned replacing them. You mentioned Howie making some moves, and he always seems to swing for the fences. Now, just Jahan Dotson's not working out for you, but do you feel, as Locked on Law is asking, Howie Roseman can't get the Eagles over the top?
No, I don't think. I really, at this point, I don't think it can be a Howie Roseman problem. I just don't. The Eagles lost Jason Kelsey, and they have Cam Jurgens right there, who was specifically brought on to learn behind him and move over to that position. Just the way that his mind thinks, like 5 steps ahead, is something that I find brilliant, and I don't think the blame can go to Howie. It just can't. If you just look at the roster at the depth chart, it's stacked, and it's stacked with experience at the right positions, and it's stacked with high velocity players at the right position. He knows what he's doing, and I couldn't put the blame on him.
I think, what happens a lot with players, and I think this is from an outside perspective, this seems to have happened with Jalen Hurts, is that, okay, here's this young guy, he's progressing, and he gets up to a certain plateau. And then once you get there, everybody starts turning on you. They start finding all of your flaws, and then they want to start breaking you down, right, and bringing you down a few levels. Where sort of is the vibe in Philly with Jalen Hurts now, because he hasn't gotten him over the ultimate hump yet, and that collapse last year, or was it the year before, whenever it was, right?
It was this last year. Yeah.
Just last year, right? So what is the vibe of Philly fans in terms of Jalen Hurts? Are they still ride or die with him, or are they starting to kind of pick at him a little bit and see that maybe he's not the guy?
It is day to day.
Yeah, it's day to day.
He had a 4-game streak with no turnovers. He had 2 turnovers last game, but overall, we're still winning right now. So things are. He's getting the benefit of the doubt right now, but he does one thing wrong, and they're attacking him. So he's damned if he does, he's damned if he doesn't. But what he needs to do is take care of the football. And what I'm seeing is the less he tries to do too much is his sweet spot. He has weapons everywhere around him. He only threw 21 times last game. But he has that greatness mentality. He has the put everybody on your shoulders mentality. And in those cases, he tries to do too much, and it backfires. So I think if he can just take care of the ball, not do too much, trust his weapons, then Philly will be riding with him. But it really is day to day. I feel bad. That's a lot to deal with mentally.
We had talked about it earlier, Lee. As I said, I'm a big Hurts guy. I'm a Sooner fan, so I've watched him before he even got into the league. He has games where he can be MVP level, and you just love to watch him play football. And then he has like the most bonehead games ever, and you're just like, how's this guy an NFL QB?
Did you? I mean, I feel like it's exemplified in that Brazil game against Green Bay. The way that game started with him, everyone's like, "What? Who is this? How he didn't have an interception all throughout camp, and then immediate interception, immediate turnover, and it just those things that you don't expect from when you watch him, a player at his caliber. You don't expect those crazy, weird, fluky mistakes. You actually would more so expect them from Jayden Daniels, but he's not even doing that either."
Exactly. Speaking of Jayden Daniels, I know pretty much for the Eagles to win, you guys have to stop him, and that's it, because let's be honest. But in order for the Commanders to have a chance, or a really good chance of beating the Eagles, what do the Commanders have to do? Since you guys are stacked all across the board, from defense, offense, special teams, you guys have more than just a quarterback. You got A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Saquon Barkley, Jalen Hurts, and then that's just offense. So, like, what can we do to give us a chance to win tomorrow night?
I mean, if Jayden is so explosive in the quarterback run game, if he can beat us that way, it's kind of game over. I think that's what it comes down to. If he continues to take care of the ball, I mean, the craziest thing to me is the fact that you guys are number one in least turnovers, correct?
Least turnovers,
absolutely. With
absolutely.
a rookie quarterback at the helm. That is an insane statement to say, and it's and I mean he's just killing it. His explosiveness running is just like Lamar Jackson, and he throws the long ball better than Lamar Jackson when he first came out. I think it all comes down for you guys. It all comes down to Jayden Daniels and pressuring Jalen Hurts, getting him uncomfortable, making him turn the ball over in those crazy situations.
And speaking of pressuring Jalen Hurts, is Jordan Mailata going to be playing tomorrow?
Yes. So, yeah, Jordan Mailata's back. Sorry.
He's not that good, you guys.
He's good. He's great.
I know, right? Give him that look.
Have you seen who we trot out?
Brian back for you guys, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Brian Robinson will be playing.
Yeah, great.
Yeah.
But Marshawn Lattimore not back. But that can't be a surprise because it's a short week, right?
I'm a little bit surprised.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just because he's the fight for the.
He's missed 2 games with New Orleans before the trade with the hamstring. We traded him, and he's already missed 2 games for us already. And we really don't know how severe the hamstring injury is. And I think that's why it's with raising the level of concern, because we don't know how severe it is. Because I personally thought it was a Devontae Adams situation. I don't want to be in New Orleans. My hand is hurt, and I come back and scoot up and play. But it hasn't been like that at all. He hasn't even done anything with the team except for just been out there talking to him on the sidelines since he's been with us.
So then you're worried it's more serious.
Yeah, and not necessarily we need him for this game per se, but we kind of do, because I think now on is like playoff football before playoff football gets here, because 100%. This league is so tight, and so that's a little bit of concerning for me personally over here, is we just have him and he's missed now 4 games with the hammy, but we don't know how severe it is. So
and those ones are always so tricky, but Eagles fans are happy.
Yeah.
Got to be happy lining up across from Benjamin St. Juste, who you just saw get abused a couple different times in the game against the Steelers. Yeah, it's Trev's favorite player, Benjamin St. Juste.
I can tell. I can tell.
So we talked about Daniels and what he has to do to potentially beat this defense of the Eagles. What does our defense have to do? Because our defense has been a little bit of Jekyll and Hyde. Sometimes they've looked good, and sometimes they just get absolutely beat. So what do they have to do to beat these Philadelphia Eagles?
I think it's so Jalen hasn't been the best at reacting properly. I think most importantly, if the Commanders were to take away the Saquon Barkley run game and then have more one-on-ones with receivers, that would probably be a more troublesome situation for the Eagles. Take away that run game, and that's half our offense lately. So
Yeah, well, not a good chance of that happening, unfortunately. Yeah, we're really missing Jonathan Allen right now. A lot of our fans, you talk about the Eagles fans being finicky with Hurts. That's our fan base with Jonathan Allen. He could play the most perfect game and people would still be like, it's not good enough. He's not a top 5 defensive tackle.
It's so frustrating. I feel so bad when things like that go on. But you're like, be consistent, and then people won't talk about it.
That's true.
That's fair.
Let's see. So my last question for you, Lee, is Zach Ertz is coming home for the first time since he left in Philly. And I mean, what he did in Philly for 8 years, something like that, 8 or 9 years, and all of that, and a Super Bowl. And what's the reception going to be? Because it's been a while since he's been gone. What's the reception going to be in Philly for Zach Ertz?
It will be. I would think that everyone will be excited to see him. But if he does well, he'll get extra booze.
That's Philly's fans.
More of the love.
Yeah, 100%.
Came for him. Brian Johnson's coming back. Zacchaeus is coming back.
I mean, Zach Ertz is a different level. He's going to
Zach Ertz is a different level.
Yeah.
It'll be loving booze, but they'll be palpable. Yeah.
My last question is, so like Stoner said before in your introduction, you were a daughter of a former NFL GM and Mike Mayock for the Raiders. Were you actually a Raiders fan at one point, or were you just donning it because he's your father and you were supporting him? Or if you were, what's it like being a Raiders fan?
Honestly, I was. Once my dad got the job, it was automatic. Like I was ride or die Raiders. Oh. But the nice part is that the Philly people got that because they really we're from here. Like when we see others do well, when it's not specifically against us, we're rooting for them. So the Eagles let me be a Raiders fan for a couple of years, and it was almost bad for my health how much of a fan I was. Like it was like living and dying with each series. Like it was the craziest experience of my life. One of the coolest though too. And Raiders fans are wild. I will love them forever. They I always say that the Raider fans and Eagles fans are so similar. Just like they're absolute psychopaths. But then the Raiders fans get mad because they don't want to be compared to the Eagles. They think they're way more normal than the Eagles fans, which is hilarious to me.
Yeah.
I'm like, you're all psychopaths, but that's a compliment. But it was such a cool experience. I got to see my dad live out his number one goal professionally in life. And to be the seasons we were there were so up and down. So there's nothing like being on a team. Like we've all played sports, and just being on a team, winning and losing together, you're all family and you're all in it together. And it was just one of the coolest experiences of my life for sure.
Yeah. It's pretty cool. Before I get to my last question, JG wants to know, we talked about just briefly about Dotson earlier and how Roseman missing more than likely on. Now, Jahan Dotson said nothing was going to be personal about the trade until he plays Washington. How are you and Philadelphia fans feeling about Jahan Dotson? Is what JG's asking.
Surprisingly, Philly fans have been giving him some leeway. Everyone's saying that this will be his big comeuppance against the Washington Commanders. So if that happens, then great, we'll ride with him. If it doesn't happen, then the Philly fans will turn on him for sure.
Well, he's for failure then, because I know Coach Lombard, who is our resident Eagles fan, saying he's starting to catch some more there. But I mean, you look at his season stats, and he's just not where he should be. And it was a little bit disappointingly for us as well, because we were very high on him after his rookie year. His sophomore season just wasn't good. And for him to not make the team as a first round pick was pretty big, sent pretty big ripples here. And people thought only getting a third was also ludicrous. But then all of a sudden you have him at third being more valuable than what a lot of these better wide receivers are getting. So that is,
but it is time to put up or shut up. It's time. Yeah. What I have to ask you guys a question though, if we have time. So I feel like you're turning the page, turning a chapter. You have your new quarterback. You have new management. Are you all leaning into that, or is it still like residual effects from before? Kind of how Eagles fans are scared of being all in. What's it like in Washington fan base wise? Like, are you leaning in or are you afraid?
Both.
Yes,
For me personally, because I wasn't old enough to experience the glory days in the '91, the Doug Williams and the John Riggins. So my only success story is RG3, and that ended abruptly, with the knee injury. So
Abruptly, yeah.
I'm super excited. I'm stoked. I'm also very, very nervous to go all in just because we've been traumatized and tortured for the past 30 years with the previous regime, that they put a damper on any glimmer of hope we used to have. I mean, for God's sakes, last year we were like, Sam Howell's the man. Like, that's how bad Ashburn syndrome we were. We were 4-13 later.
Anything,
like,
give us anything.
we'll trade him for a 6th rounder.
Yeah.
Yeah, anything. So, yeah, just for us to have a competent head coach, the guy at quarterback, a competent GM who has had a lot of experience, successful experience in the league, and Adam Peters. And
he's
actually
being behind John Lynch too is such a great place to be.
Exactly. Yeah. And just to hear free agents and the buzz around the league that people want to come play for Dan Quinn and want to come to Washington, it's just like still in shock. I mean, like I'm still in shock about Bobby Wagner being on our team. Like, for real.
No, like, I believe it.
We were happy for Eric Bieniemy. We were happy for Ron Rivera. We were happy for Sam Howell, but like Bobby Wagner wanted to come to us is just like mind blowing for me to this day. So I'm all in, but I'm still like I got to put my seatbelt's still on. I'm not ready to unbuckle.
100%.
I still got my safety belt on.
No, that's so understandable. That's completely. That's so
I haven't gotten to that point to where I'm concerned about the other shoe dropping. I'm not there anymore because we've just seen too many sort of competent moves, decisions that are being made that are intelligent, that we have been wanting or been asking for years and years, whether it's personnel moves, on the field moves, off the field moves. All of these things have just been so competent and intelligent and looking at the long-term vision. Mm-hmm. And I think Marshawn Lattimore trade is a perfect example of that.
Absolutely. That was huge.
Maybe he's not going to play 1 game, 2 games, 3 games, or even 4 games, but he's going to play for the stretch run, and he's under contract for 2 more years. And that's a long play. That's to get a guy in here that we need. Yeah, we'd love to have him match up against A.J. Brown, but we're looking at the long term. And so that's what's allowed me to sort of take that seatbelt off, like Trev said, and be able to just be all in and say, I believe everything that's going on with this team has a successful outcome somewhere down the road.
That must be so refreshing.
Oh, it's
unbelievably so. For a long
7-3 in a rebuilding year, it's nuts.
Going into Thursday Night Football, fighting for the number 1 spot in the NFC East in November. Yeah. That's pretty cool.
Up until last week, right? The number 2 seed, only behind Detroit. Hopefully going to get back there again. I think the time for trepidation was months ago when it comes to being a fan of this team, Lee, because as Stoner mentioned, there's just all these smart decisions. So maybe we didn't agree with them, right? There's fans who didn't like the Dan Quinn hire. He wasn't 2/3 of the pod here didn't think that should have been the pick.
Oh wow!
And then you have him bringing in super competent people wanting, coaches wanting to come here. I mean, we talked extensively about the offensive side. Cliff Kingsbury's here, sure, but then you have Anthony Lynn, you have Brian Johnson. Like on the defensive side, you're getting people to follow Joe Witt Jr. and come together there. So you have a lot of respect. You have players who are wanting to come here. Maybe a lot of them we thought were a little bit over the hill, but Wagner is still a great player. Zach Ertz has been doing great. He has 0 yak on the year.
Oh God,
but my goodness, can he get open and catch the ball? So at least he does that. Maybe doesn't get a first down.
One of two. Yeah. And Austin Eckler too. I thought that was great. He seems valuable for your offense.
Very valuable.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
And then you get to the draft, and maybe Jayden Daniels wasn't the pick for a lot of people. And I had my concerns over his size, over his sack totals, because last year the stat we all learned was pressure sack ratio, and Sam Howell was awful in that regard. And it came to bite him back in the bit. But you have him just absolutely learning on the fly. We've seen it in games, Lee, where he makes a mistake one play. I think it was the Cincinnati one. He they did a zero blitz against Jayden Daniels, and he panicked and he just threw it up and it was off the mark. The defensive coordinator does it again, and Jayden Daniels zero panic and hits that Terry McLaurin touchdown in the corner. And it was just like this. They're 8 minutes apart. 8 minutes apart, and he learned
so
on the
impressive.
fly.
It just impresses me at every turn. I almost can't believe what I'm watching.
Yeah,
especially in comparison to all the rookie quarterbacks right now, and even the second year quarterbacks right now, where OCs are getting fired left and right. I'm like, the Commanders have got to be happy sitting pretty with their franchise quarterback right now.
Yeah, so I'm riding high. I'm no seatbelt here. I am. I'm both feet in, and I'm loving life right now. And I do think that Washington has a good chance to win tomorrow night in Thursday Night Football. But Lee, my final question is for you, unless you have any other questions for us. I wanted to ask you, how do you think the game's going to go, and what's your final score?
I do think it's going to be really close. The matchups are so parallel. But I have to go. I'm going to say Eagles by 3. And I really think that's just going to come down to experience. That there's not numbers for experience, but it's just those intangibles that I think Eagles offensive line and obviously the quarterback have a little bit more experience there. And that's going to be the key. That's mine.
What's the numbers though? By 3?
Okay, by 3. I'm going to say, well, you guys, you're averaging like 29 points right now. No, actually, I'm going to go 21-27.
All right.
Okay.
I changed it.
Okay.
All right. What are your predictions?
All right, Nathan, you go.
I do think it's going to be a close game. I don't think Washington's going to make its average scoring because the Philadelphia defense is pretty good, and it'll be interesting to see how this defense handles it. But been telling it, I'm wearing the burgundy and gold glasses today because I picked the Steelers last week, and I can't pick the Eagles this week. Can't do it back-to-back weeks. I'm going to take Washington winning this one, 28-24.
Okay.
Interesting. Okay. This is a tough game to predict. Washington's a little ticked off after having lost that close game to the Steelers. Philadelphia had that easy game against Dallas last week, so they're kind of riding high a little bit, and we need to bring them down a peg. Philadelphia has not seen a quarterback like Jayden Daniels all year long. They've had almost all drop back quarterbacks other than Daniel Jones. But Daniel Jones is Daniel Jones, right? They have not seen a weapon like this in Jayden Daniels. And so I think he is going to be able to get what's coming, what's being offered out there. So I don't believe Philadelphia's going to be able to stop him quite as much as you want to. However, I got 2 words for all of those who think Washington is going to win, and those 2 words are Saquon Barkley.
He's round of applause. Beast. Where's that round of applause button you guys have?
It broke.
Yeah, Stoners are Debbie Downer, so he gets the trombone.
But I think it's going to be a high-scoring game. I don't believe that Philadelphia's defense is going to be able to stop Jayden Daniels. However, we're not going to be able to stop Saquon Barkley. He's going to go for 200 all-purpose yards and 2 touchdowns.
Give us the score.
So I got Philadelphia 31, Washington 27.
All right, I love that.
I don't love it, but that's what I think.
I got Philly 31-21. Pretty much what you said.
Am I the lone wolf tonight?
Yeah.
Oh, I really thought this was going to be.
Our offensive line too banged up for this short week. Our secondary cannot match up with their wide receiver room, including Jahan Dotson. He might not get the targets that he wants, but this might be the game where he goes off.
It might be his game. It might.
He just has too many weapons, and then Saquon Barkley, as long as he doesn't, jump over his backwards or do a cartwheel or a somersault or the
triple axel,
the triple axel will be okay. But he is a different beast. No matter who he's played for, he has been a problem for Washington. No matter who we've had on our team, just can't seem to stop that guy. So 31-21. It's close in the beginning, but then the Eagles just pull away.
This might be the first time Trev has picked against Washington all year.
Yeah, man, I really want to, but
You're just a
can't,
smart
man.
man. You're a smart man. That's what it comes down to.
Is
Thank you.
that what it is? It's
I guess.
something. No, it is going to be interesting on the Saquon Barkley point. Who was the guy he jumped over, and has he retired from the NFL yet? Because
I don't even know
feel
who
like
that was.
I forget. I don't remember who it was, but I remember seeing his reaction, and it was so funny because he was also in awe of what just happened. Like, you
the
can't
whole
help
Philadelphia bench was in awe. That was actually a great camera shot where
the
they were like,
thing
"What?
we've ever seen?"
Like,
Yeah.
you can't do that in an NFL game." That was insane. Maybe not so insane is Washington winning. Our viewers have voted 78% going in the good guys' favor. That's the Commanders on this podcast.
Oh, interesting. Never heard that one.
Yeah, so it will be quite a game here on Thursday Night Football. You can catch Lee on her own channel, the Believe and Eagles. You catch that wherever you're listening to your audio podcast. One of our fellow Believe members, Lee. We appreciate you jumping on, and hopefully we can get you back here in a few weeks when these two meet here in DC.
I can't wait. Let's do it again. Thank you guys so much for having me, and go Birds.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Bye. Have a great night.
Thank you.
That was Lee Mayock from the Believe and Eagles joining us here on Ref the District. We always appreciate our guests jumping on, giving us that good insight when it comes to it. I'm a little surprised I am running solo here on this particular game, gents. But then again, maybe not, because it is going to be a difficult game. It's going to be an exciting game. We'll be bringing you your not so instant reaction on Friday. So we are going to get to sleep on the game, and then we'll bring you that there on Friday. But we are always live here on Wednesday nights at 7:30 Eastern. And next week will be episode 200, to Huddy, as they like to say.
That's
and
crazy.
You could win you have a chance to win a $200 gift certificate to Fanatics. So you'll want to make sure that you tune in. We'll be posting some more information on that later. Trev has his hand raised.
What episode number did I join?
Ooh, I'll have to go back into the archives on that.
80 something?
Oh, wow.
I feel like it was 80 something.
That's cool.
I don't think it was that.
That's cool.
I don't think it was that
Was
low.
it in the hundreds?
No,
Like lower hundreds?
I think it was. I would guess probably in the 40s or 50s.
40s? 50s?
August
Okay.
of 21.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we started in.
Oh yeah,
February.
never mind. It would have been really low. It would have been actually probably in like the 30s. Yeah.
So 4
Yeah, let's
months,
go.
once a week. You know.
That's cool. That's cool.
It has been a long and fun ride, and we appreciate everybody jumping on. We had quite the number here joining. We appreciate all the comments today as you got there. And TJ here calling you out, Trev. Oh, Trev, you're the homer guy. We definitely winning now.
Yeah, that's my plan.
There you go. There. Trev's secret plan. So we have a lot of fun. We'll have the not so instant reaction on Friday for you. We'll be back on Wednesday. Everybody have a fantastic time. We are brought to you by Bet Online and Don't Sleep Energy. And until next time.
Hot take: Austin Eckler returns a kick for a touchdown.
Ooh, be a fan.